Your kids whine, and after a while, you doubt your resolve. Maybe I'm being too harsh. Maybe one more cookie doesn't matter. Maybe they aren't tired enough to sleep. Then, as time goes on, you resent the situation. You resent that you got yourself in this situation again. And in those moments, you even resent your child. When these feelings happen, you turn inward and really feel like you're a bad parent. Why is this so hard? Today, we're going to talk about one strategy to get out of that cycle. Does your child have a speech-language delay and you really want them to talk? Do difficult behaviors derail home life and you know the frustration is a communication struggle? Does your child see a speech therapist and you wonder, what do they do and how can I help? If these or similar questions are in your mind, this podcast is for you. Hello, my name is Dinalynn Rosenbusch. I am a speech-language pathologist that has worked with children from birth to 21 for 3 decades. And in my classrooms, I see you wanting to connect with the heart of your child, but their speech and language skills create a barrier. So if you have a kiddo that has difficult behaviors, needs to expand their language or learn to say speech sounds, and maybe even receives speech therapy, stay tuned, because in this podcast, you will learn how to use your daily life as a tool to communication practice and how to do that practice. You will become confident knowing you are making the difference you want to make. And you will hear success stories of parents who have navigated these struggles already. We'll do this all while focusing on building deep, meaningful connection and confidence in your kiddo. So grab a cup of coffee along with a notebook and pen. It's time to speak in the way your child's brain understands. And that is the language of play. Welcome back, listeners. So far, everyone who has come to me for coaching also has questions about themselves that comes forward during coaching. Maybe it is noticing that they are repeating what their parents did and they don't want to do that. Maybe it is the self-talk that is so draining and belittling. Well, parents, we don't have time for that. The outcome of draining, belittling self-talk and the doubting of ourselves really steals the energy from us. Parenting differently and getting rid of the self-talk has a component of reparenting yourself. We don't only learn what to do going forward, but we also need to become aware of our habits. That would be our habits of mind, our habits of behavior, and our habits of our thinking, which we learned in the past, usually in our childhood. Did you know that you can reparent yourself? It's true, you can. And this is one part of coaching. Not only do we deal with your kiddo's needs, we address your needs too. In fact, some people that do this kind of work with me don't even have kids. And that's fun too. I mean, it's hard work, but I love watching the transformation in people as they become who they really want to be. Because inside of you, you really know who it is you want to be. And sometimes you just need to be shown the steps to get there. And one of those steps is recognizing our habits and how it is we can change them. Today we're going to look at a couple of examples, 2 examples that help us see examples of reparenting and examples of how you can step out of the pattern, the habit that you have been in. Now, there are many ways to do this, and there are many examples I could have taken, but these are the 2 that I happen to take, and this is just the ones I happen to show you. It's just like any other episode. There's many ways you can teach a sound, or teach vocabulary, or teach listening, but there's only so much you can cover in one episode. So here's what I chose to talk about. And I really do hope that it is helpful and rewarding for you. And if it is, write me and tell me. I'd love to hear it. In the first example, we'll use as a reparenting example, and this will set a foundation for today's content. Let's say that the 3-year-old you understood something through the lens of 3-year-old understanding, which is what a 3-year-old does. That's what they understand with 3 years of life. Your brain took in a thought and made it solid. This is how the brain does it. This understanding works for a long time. And then at some point in your life, you realize that you have this way of looking at things and you wonder, how come I've been doing that? How come I think that? And that is the point in your life where you realize you have a choice. Because until that point, it seems black and white to us. It seems like normal thinking, kind of like it's your own culture. It's something you don't recognize because it's what you do all the time. It's what you're familiar with. It's been that way for so long that we think it's true. And because we've thought something for a period of time, it has become a belief. But when you realize you have a choice and you get to choose if you are going to change that belief, change that thought, and reparent yourself. You get to choose what you believe and what you think going forward. This is one area that inevitably comes up during coaching. We all have this going on. You, me, all the time. Why is this? It's because we were all three at one time. And we all understood the world with our 3-year-old understanding, which of course is limited. If you listen to your 3-year-old, they don't process fully. They don't have enough life experience to really understand a situation. And they are locking and loading their understanding until it gets changed. Well, we made decisions based on our limited experience of living, and maybe no one knew the belief was there to change. So it persists. Well, the same thing happens when we adopt beliefs from our family of origin. Some of those beliefs you won't even know persist in your life. You want to do things differently, but you don't know there's a belief in the background until there's a light that shines on it. Coaching is the flashlight. Conversations are the method. Good questions propel you to discover the underlying thinking that you did not know was there. This is like the proverbial can't see the forest for the trees. When you're too close, you can't see the whole picture. If you've been thinking about life coaching or parent coaching, email me at hello@thelanguageofplay.com. Now let's look at an example of reparenting. I'm not sure why I thought of this example, but I did. So the 3-year-old you learned that broccoli doesn't taste good. So you go years never eating broccoli. It can be anything, though, how you fold towels or do the dishes, or maybe how you view a dad's role in the home. Broccoli might be a bad example for you, so just consider it as the principle of what I'm going to say. So let's look at my example. Broccoli doesn't taste good, is the thinking, which led me to not liking broccoli. I learned it tastes bad when I was very young because my dad wouldn't eat it. Then Mom realized my thinking and exposed me to a new way of thinking when I was a little older, and I learned that I like broccoli. Well, who knows how much of my life I would have spent believing something that I did not know was not true. Let's call it this way. Mom reparented my thinking when she realized I was thinking incorrectly. Much of the time, we don't know, and our parents don't know that our 3-year-old minds what that understood. They don't know what our 3-year-old minds took in as truth. So, just like coaching helps you identify what your thoughts and beliefs are, this helps you see the choices you have. It empowers you to make the changes you want. My mom identified my thought, showed me other choices, gave me an opportunity to make change. Of course, she hadn't analyzed it that way, but ultimately, that is what happened, and that is a fairly close to accurate story. And by the way, later in life, my dad started liking broccoli. Go figure. So anyway, this leads us nicely into the main episode content here. Why do we give in? And how do we stop giving in? Let's begin with why we give in. This is easy. Fatigue. Our nerves get frazzled. You know, giving in will calm the storm. Self-doubt. Like we question ourselves. Your child says something that breaks your heart, so you cave. Maybe you didn't really mean it in the first place. There are reasons why we give in, and this part is easy. Now, how to stop giving in, this is harder. So, people say pick your battles. And that I used to find really confusing about whether that meant in the moment or long term, or how do you think about it? And I also found for me, it was easy to adopt this as I'm not going to battle right here, right now, because I'm tired. Rather than it be guidance for me, it became an excuse for me. So what does picking your battles mean? It means you want to win the war. And not all battles need to be fought. The ones that align with your main mission are the only ones that really need to be fought. When it comes to picking your battles, we have to consider what are our main objectives with our child. Because you and I are not in dialogue, this is more monologue from me and you're listening, I'm going to pick some from my life. One was broccoli, and we're going to return to that. But the next one is going to be sleep. And I want you to take note right away that the main source of every battle we are in is our own thoughts about the situation. Let me say that again. The thoughts you have about the situation is a bigger battle than the actual situation. We'll unpack that later too, but it is worth noting. Now let's dive into sleep, because I believe sleep is one battle worth picking. So if you believe your child needs to be sleeping now, and you drone in your mind about how you wish they're going to sleep, you will get upset. Your focus is on longing for what isn't happening. If you think, why won't my child sleep? Then your focus is on all the reasons your child is not sleeping. If you think, what else can I do to make him sleep? Your focus is on being responsible for his behavior. If you think a good parent will get their kids to sleep, you are focused on your insufficiency. Here are some examples of how the battle is more in our mind. Now what I'm about to suggest sounds a bit crazy to some and sounds like common sense to others. That is, relax. You did your job. You know your little one is fed, has gone to the bathroom, teeth are brushed, jammies are on, you read your story, in whatever order you do your routine. So you did your bedtime routine, which hopefully will be down to 30 minutes soon. You hug and kiss your child goodnight, and then what? They go to sleep peacefully. No, we all know that's not always the case. They cry, they ask for snuggles, they whine, they say they're scared, they wander out after you say, stay. You hear them beller from the other room as if they're in severe emotional pain. And of course, you will give in if you're thinking, is any of the thoughts I said just a few moments ago. What you say to yourself about this situation matters. And here's what I want you to start telling yourself. Ready? Get a pen if you need to. You say this, my child is learning to put himself to sleep. Now, I'm using male pronouns here because I just had this discussion about a little boy. If you need to change it to her, you go ahead and do that. Here it is again. Write it down so that you can remind yourself, my child is learning to put himself to sleep. You need to let him. You need to let him learn. You need to let him have the process of learning, which means if you keep saying it like that, you will be able to step out of the responsibility of him falling asleep. You will be able to support him along the way. You will have compassion while he learns. If you keep saying that to yourself, his struggle isn't going to bother you as much as you will be able to be supportive during his learning process. And you'll know it's his process, it's not yours. You need to let him learn for himself to put himself to sleep. You just set up the conditions. His routine, his bladder's empty, his tummy's full enough, maybe he's had a drink of water, whatever it is that typically happens beforehand. Does this sound too good to be true? It isn't. It isn't easy, though, to make the changes. But when you know how to approach the situation, your child follows, or they will follow. It takes time and it takes practice on both parts, because when your habit is giving in, they know that they push a little harder in whatever habit has been happening, and then the next step will happen in the process they're used to. You see, if you're tense, though, they can't fall asleep. That is why you relaxing, you getting into the right mindset is always first, because they feel your tension. Children have this radar for the emotions and feelings that are going on around them, and they cannot relax unless you are. And of course, falling asleep takes relaxing. Knowing this is a skill that they can learn is going to help you along the way, and it'll probably help you learn to put yourself to sleep a little bit quicker and easier too. Let's take a look at sleep now, as the stages and ages vary. Okay, one way to look at it. And yes, remember, the learning needs to be revisited at various ages and stages. It's not a one and done. Your child grows a little bit more, they understand a little bit more, and suddenly they awaken to the idea, pun not intended, but that worked. They awaken to the idea that, oh, I wonder if that rule still persists. Now I'll tell you a story from my life. When my son was born, I lived in a very small 2-bedroom house. The total living area was less than 500 square feet. His sisters were 3 and 1 at the time, and he was a noisy sleeper. A wise nurse helped me realize that my objective needed to be sleep for everyone. At all costs, sleep for everyone. And she said, don't worry about how that happens. Just make sure everybody gets the sleep they need. The baby will sleep, but everybody else needs to get sleep too in order for your family to function. So what we ended up doing was putting this little baby in his car seat behind the couch in the living room across the house for most of the first 7 months of his life. It worked because he was fine. He seemed comfortable. And he was so noisy that the couch buffered some of the sounds. That was disappointing because he wasn't in the cradle next to me. He was separated from everyone. I cared. He didn't care. He didn't notice. I had to change my thinking because I thought I was doing it wrong. Once I changed my thinking to be the objective is sleep for everyone, then I relaxed. As kids got older, I let go of the battle to win the sleep war by telling them they did not have to sleep. Notice I said I let go of the battle to win the war. I gave my kids 3 rules. That was shut your eyes, shut your mouth, and stay. And what I found was the key is I'd have to say it happily and lovingly as if this was the best game ever. And did it work? Well, not at first. And at first, I said, be quiet. So they whispered and they tiptoed. I learned by saying quiet does not help when they're young because they need things to be literal about what they do with their bodies. So I started saying, shut your eyes, shut your mouth, and stay. And so they had more practice, and then they would do just the shutting of their eyes, and they'd be talking to me with their eyes shut. And then they would put their hands over their eyes and try to walk to me. You know, all the antics that kids do. So yes, they needed reminding. They needed me to put them back in their room. But what I found was when I got really irritated with them, they cried more. They wandered out, crying and whining, and I'd ask, are your eyes shut? Did you stay? And the key was really to keep putting the goal back in their hands as their treasure. Even when they disagree, when you get amped up, go to the bathroom and breathe. Let go, relax. There are strategies to get into a better state of mind quickly, and email me if you need help with that. But get a hold of yourself and return to the mindset of my child is learning to put himself to sleep. I am allowing this process to happen. Just keep telling yourself, my child is learning to put himself to sleep. So then with more practice, eventually my kids cued each other. And when kindergarten friends spent the night, they told their friends, shut your eyes, shut your mouth, and stay, in the most friendly voice ever. I wish I could have seen their expressions. I wish I had a little video camera to see how the visiting friends responded to that. We practiced more, celebrating their mini successes. As at the beginning I had to set a timer, and then throughout the different stages of their growth and development, when we had to restart it, I'd set the timer again, go and give them a hug, tell them how proud I was of them, and set the target for the behavior. I wanted them to be identified with the behavior that I wanted. And also, when I do that, when I celebrate those successes along the way, it reminds me that we are learning, and this is a good step along the way. Celebrating brings comfort and joy and security for the child. It strengthens your relationship with him. And by the way, that fosters good sleep. So if you do this early in life, later in life becomes easier because you can return to those basic 3 principles. I started this about age 3 with my oldest, and about age 2 with the subsequent kids. My niece started staying at my house quite a lot at age 4, and that's when it worked for her too. So remember what happens every night at your house? That is what your child has learned as the routine. So if you want to change that routine, here is one of many ways to do it, but remember your key is to be happy. Now let's give a summary for sleep before we return to broccoli. In summary, if you don't like the routine, take the time first, always, to get into the right mindset. Your child's learning a new skill. You see, your routine, the one that you don't like, is a habit. It is what your child knows is the routine. It is the predictable habit that is understood by your child. This is what we do every day. So you get upset, they cry, you snuggle, they sleep, and they literally think of this in the first person tense, like this. Okay, so now you're not upset yet. Oh, now you're upset. Now I cry. Oh, now you snuggle me. And oh, now I get to go to sleep. Of course, they don't think of it like this. They don't put it in those terms, but that's like the subconscious thinking that's going on in that little kid brain. So we simply need to change the pattern of interaction. And I shouldn't have said simply. It's not simple. They have no reason to change the routine. It is you that wants to change it. Therefore, do it in a relaxed state. So first, figure out exactly what you want to happen. And this works well if you have a partner or friend to talk it through with. What exactly do you want to have happen? Consider from their perspective. This is the second step. From their perspective, what does it mean? So from their perspective, maybe it means that they'll hear a timer. Maybe there'll be no dog in the bedroom. Maybe there's going to be a water next to them. Now, I am not advocating that you must use a timer or can't have a dog in a bedroom. I am simply using those as examples. Then third, you explain to them. After you get a clear head on what you want and what it's like from their perspective, explain to them from their perspective what you want them to do, what you want, and how you will help them get there. You stay relaxed and happy for them because they are simply learning a new skill. This is the mindset you step into, and being there will make it easier. And then, of course, number 5 is always celebrate, celebrate, celebrate each little step. Now, as you do this, you will realize the parts that you missed, because you will. Simply say to your child, oh, I missed that. I forgot to tell you that we get to bring your blankie and lovey with you, or whatever it is that you miss along the way. Don't expect it to be correct the first time or the 10th time, because we're dealing with humans, and humans are changing types of creatures. Now that we've talked about this, let's stretch yourself to consider these same steps in other areas, because it's the same steps. Now let's look at the summary with broccoli. Always, before you begin to change your routine, get into the right mindset. Before you are changing habits, you get into the right mindset. That's always first. Then, 1, figure out what it is that you want. My example is maybe you want them to eat broccoli. 2, consider from their perspective what it means for them. Maybe it means sample foods, smile and say no thank you when offered more. Maybe it's smile instead of grimace when they don't like it. Whatever it means for them, that's what you need to consider. So figuring out what you want and considering from their perspective is all in your head. It's not your interaction with them yet. Number 3, once you get those two figured out clearly, then explain it to them from their perspective. What do you want from them? What are they to do? How will you help them get there? For example, each time I put a food on your plate, you must eat 1 bite. Or, if you don't like it, that's okay, but you must eat 1 small bite. Or, I will help you by having your bite be very small and giving you a drink of milk afterwards. Or, I want you to learn to love all foods. I particularly like the last one because we can plant that idea in our kids' heads and they will live into it. And as always, you stay relaxed and happy for them because they are learning this new skill. Now, what if they gag, make a big display, spit it out, throw up? How will you stay happy for them as they learn this new skill? Some of our kids get pretty dramatic. One hint here is to not get ruffled by it, because when we get ruffled, that's when they realize that they have the power of, oh, when Mom reacts badly, she takes everything away from me, so that's how I really let her know that I don't like it. But of course, that doesn't win the war. The war is that we want good nutrition in our children. The battle is this meal. So we're not going to try to give a full portion of broccoli or whatever it is at this meal. We're simply trying to expand their palate so they become receptive to a wide variety of foods. So we remember what the war is versus the battle. And of course, celebrate. That's number 5. Always celebrate every little step along the way. This again is so important. It shows exactly what your child is to do. It helps you stay centered, and it marks the improvement, and it's so important for so many things. Tell your child, I'm proud of you. I know this wasn't easy for you, but you did it. I encourage you to refrain from, good job, you ate one, because that doesn't set the stage for what you really want. What you really want is for your child to be able to do hard things, to be able to accept a variety of nutritious food. Now, again, maybe my broccoli example was not a good one, but I'm guessing that with these 2 examples, you will be able to expand it to whatever situation you're dealing with. Maybe it's bath time, maybe it's putting on their shoes, getting in the car, maybe it's cooperating for cleanup, doing their homework, or proper use of their phones, and learning to drive a car. These steps can extend over time and are very effective. So, again, like I said at the beginning, this is one method. I would love to hear how you're implementing this turns out and whatever you apply it to. And in the meantime, remember that I am here for guidance. Email me at hello@thelanguageofplay.com and we'll have a conversation. Bye for now. Hey parents, I hope you found this episode helpful. If so, would you please take 30 seconds and share it with a friend who also lives or works with children? I would really appreciate it if you would leave a quick review for the show on Apple Podcasts. I read every review, and it lights me up to know that this show is making a difference. Then come join my Facebook community, where you'll meet other parents who are dedicated to helping their children grow too. You'll find the link in the show notes. Thank you for joining me. Now it's time to go. Let's pop our kiddos in the strollers and go look around outdoors and see what we have to talk about.